Alright, this is going to be a video on how to mount 1-inch RC4-wheel drive tires to RC4-wheel drive wheels. These are the stamped steel 1-inch stock Beadlock wheels. It shouldn't matter what tires you use. These are the Rock Creepers. As far as the wheels go, some of the wheels look different on their site. I've got a pair of Raceline Monster 1-inches ordered. And when I install those, if they're any different, I'll make another video on how to install tires on those wheels. But they should all be the same, if not extremely similar. So I just want to make this video because I've been seeing a lot of people having issues installing these. So let me walk you through step by step and teach you how to do this. All right, so I've got the tire taken apart, and the only tools that you'll need to build these wheels is a 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. That's it. No glue, no nothing else, no clamps. But when you order the tires and wheels, the wheels will come in a pack of 4, and they'll come assembled like this. I've already taken the bolts out, but you'll need to do that first. And then once you do that, the faceplate comes off. Then the inner ring. And you have the main wheel here. And this back piece should just pop off. But mine, since it's already been built, kind of stuck in there. So you have these 4-piece wheels here. And so the first step is to take your tire. And you want to insert this inner ring. Make sure that the bead is on the outside of the tire on both sides. And something that helped me is making sure that this fold of rubber here that goes down inside that ring is, you want to make sure that none of that is trapped between the foam and the ring. You want to make sure that's all on the inside of the ring here like this. And that none of the foam is exposed. Same with the other side. All right, next step. You want to go ahead and put the wheel piece. You want to put the wheel piece into the tire. And make sure that the bead is relatively even on this tire. A quick note, when I say the bead is even, I mean even on this faceplate and on this on the back of the wheel. And by that I mean when you're tightening down this faceplate, the bead can tend to be farther out on one of the sides of the tire. You want it to be spaced equally all the way around this ring on both sides. Otherwise, it'll end up deforming your tire if one side of the bead is out farther or in farther. And it'll just look like shit. So I know a lot of people are having problems with that. I had problems with that the first couple tires I put together. So that's what I mean by uneven beads. It doesn't have to be perfect right now, but once we start cranking down the screws, you want to double check this backside and make sure it's still all even before you start tightening the screws and you're unable to adjust it. So right now we'll set this aside and take a look at this face plate here. So if you take a look at this face plate, the bolt holes do not align with the spokes. So this is a problem that a lot of people are having in the videos that I watched. The best way to make sure that the faceplate is aligned with the inner wheel is to, when you install this faceplate, put one bolt into the bolt hole that aligns with this triangle on the spoke. See how not all of them do. So this bolt hole doesn't line up perfectly with that triangle. This bolt hole doesn't line up perfectly. Let me get it more in focus if I can. No, that's good enough. This bolt hole doesn't line up. So there's only 2 on each wheel that line up perfectly with the one of the triangles. You want to pick one of those, install one of the bolts, and you should be able to just push it through. If not, screw it in just a little bit. Yeah, looks like I'll have to screw this one in. All right, there we go. It's punched through just a little bit. And you want to take your wheel and tire that you've got sitting here and make sure that you line that bolt up with one of the bolt holes in the wheel that is lined up with the triangle. That way the spokes on the faceplate and the spokes in the wheel aren't misaligned. So what I like to do is I like to eyeball it, line up the holes, line up the spokes, and the bead kind of all at once. And then, so right now, the bolt isn't pushed through the tire at all, but the spokes are all lined up, the holes are all lined up, and the bead is relatively even on the tire. So what I should be able to do now is just take my fingers, push the bolt through that second hole on the tire, and this one's feeling a little too tight, so again I'm gonna have to screw it. Okay, just took a little nudge there and it's through. So now that screw is through both the faceplate and tire, or sorry, the faceplate and wheel. So you can see, let me see, yeah, so the spokes are lined up like I was saying, and the bolts. And this is a important step here. You want to make sure that the bead is even on front and back here. So the front is pretty even. The back is looking pretty good too. Now the next step is going to be installing this piece that goes in the back. And what this does is it captures the back of the bolt. And this is what you tighten the bolts onto to bring the wheel together. Getting this first bolt in can be a little tricky, especially while you're trying to keep all the beads even on front and back. But once you get this first bolt in, it's pretty easy from there. All right. Okay. And while you're doing this, make sure that you're not squeezing on the tire. You want to hold the wheel as much as you can. And if you have to hold the tire, don't squeeze down on it, because you don't want to squeeze air out of the tire. Because once you start tightening the bolts, it seals that tire. And if you have air squeezed out of it, the air will permanently be squeezed out of it. So avoid squeezing on the tire as much as you can, because it also will fuck up your bead. So just don't touch the tire. All right, so I'm going to try to get this bolt to catch on that back piece. And I'm going to screw until it catches and stop. And from here, I'm going to check the beads again, make sure they're all even. Okay, they're looking good, front and back. And now I'm going to take the second bolt and screw it in on the exact opposite bolt hole. And for both of these, actually all of these initially, I'm just going to screw them in until they catch on that back piece and stop. That allows me to adjust the bead if I need to, if it gets screwed up. Okay, that didn't go through at all. This one feels like it's going in crooked for some reason. All right, boom. I think it's in now. Front and back beads still look even. All right, now I'm going to put the rest of the screws in. Okay, now once you have all 6 screws in enough, you can triple check your beads. Mine look good enough for me on both front and back. And now it's time to give the bolts a final tighten, final screw down, whatever you want to call it. And the way I do it, just to not mess up the bead, is I start on one side, go to the next, go here, go to the next side. That way they tighten down evenly and one side of the bead doesn't get thrown off. Boom. So this one honestly wasn't my most perfect one. To be honest, this is a lot harder to do on camera. But it's still, I mean, from any distance, you're really not going to notice. I mean, I'm looking at the image right now on camera and you can't even tell that anything, it looks perfect. So hopefully those tips and tricks help somebody out, because these really aren't as difficult as people are making them out to be to install. And I can't wait to try these out on my SCX24. But that's it. Thank you.